All right, notebooks out. Let's start talking cognition. Let's start talking and thinking about cognition. Got it? Good. We are here. We're on thinking. Let's think about thinking. And we're going to find out it's pretty difficult to do. From a research point of view, how do you conceptualize? How do you study something? Well, first we got to define it. We know it's difficult to define thinking, so we're going to come up with a description or an operational definition. So, thinking. Here's my definition. And if you can't poke a hole in this definition, if you can't question it, if you can't find a problem with it, then maybe your time would be best spent trying to think of how to spell or practice spelling the word IQ. So here's what we're looking at. Thinking is creating and manipulating mental representations. Now immediately everyone's hand should shoot up like Hermione dislocating her shoulder in potions class, because we're going to try to figure out, all right, what is mental representation? What is manipulating? Now manipulating by definition means you're moving something with your hand. You can see the root word manual. What I'm saying to you guys right now is this is not a perfect definition. Is it good enough? It's good enough for me to make a multiple choice test question for you. I'm going to say, what is the definition of thinking? Option A, option B, option C. But have you really learned anything? I'm not sure. We're going to have another way to, and we talk research. How do we research cognition? Well, we can have a big fancy word. We can have a label called psychometrics. Psycho means mind. Metrics, of course, means what? It means measurement. How do we measure cognitive events? Really difficult to do unless you operationally define memory as retrieval. And retrieval is only a part of memory. How would you measure creativity? It's a tough thing to do. How are you going to measure intelligence? How are you going to set that up? Is creativity the number of uses you can have for a paperclip? If I gave you a couple paper clips and I said, write down all the uses you can make out of a paper clip, the more you have, are you more creative? I don't know. Another word we got to know is called mental chronometry. Mental chronometry just means measuring the speed of thought. It's pretty tough to do because look, we looked at iconic memory. Iconic memory is less than a second. And if human beings think in tenths of seconds, how do you measure that? Now, some people do think faster than others. Go back to Mrs. Felderspar's 4th grade class. And you were in your math group. Remember back in math class when it was actually fun, where you got the worksheets with a hidden message at the end? Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff. And then there's always the one kid who gets it done fast. Done! All right, and you're like, I hate that kid. All right, and then sometimes you even guess because you want to beat him, and you'd rather take the F. All right, than beat. Anyway, so you get it done. Is that kid just smarter? Is speed of thinking, is reaction time correlated with intelligence? I don't know. How would you test it? How do you define thought? Bang! How fast did you flinch? Is that correlated with your ability to come up with a right answer? Quick, what color's an orange? I saw a delay. What color's orange juice? Go. You're like, that's confusing. So my point to this, look, if we're looking at speed of thinking, and I'm going to define thinking as speaking, thought and language are the same thing. Let's look at an auctioneer. An auctioneer is someone who can speak really fast.
My name is Dominic, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do a basic chant for auctioneering. First thing you're going to need to know is your numbers. We don't have to go over that because if you want to be an auctioneer, I'm sure you're going to need to know your numbers. You're going to need to know filler words. Specifically mine is I bid it on, would you bid? I bid it on, would you bid? And you're going to need to know how to breathe in between numbers. I bid it on, would you bid it on? I bid it on, 10, 20, would you bid it on? Down 20, 10, 20, would you bid it on? Down 10, to 20, now 30. I bid it on, 30, would you bid it on? Bid it on, 30, bid it on, 30, bid it on, 30. Okay, you're going to know your numbers. You'll have to learn to pop your tongue through tongue twisters like Betty butter, butter, little bit of butter, Betty butter, butter, little bit of better butter, Betty butter, butter, little bit of better butter. Also, you're going to need how to change your voice. What I like to do is I like to put my voice just a little bit higher and go into a little not southern accent, because that helps me when I roll my numbers. Like, I bet it on now, 10, 20 now, 30, would you bet it on now, 30 now, 30, would you bet it on now, 10, 20 now, 30, 35, 40 now, 40, bet it on, 40 now, 40. And what that does is that's going to make your mouth kind of curve into the shape of the numbers and the filler words that come out of your mouth. So I spit it on down, 10, 20, now 30, 10, 20. That's just how I start out, 10, 20, and a 30. Another thing you're going to need to do is, what I like to use, I keep a pen in my hand or anything, something like that for a gavel, like I bid it on now, I bid it on, would you bid it on now, 30, would you bid it on now, 30 now, 30, would you bid it on now, 35, 35 now, 40, would you bid it on now, 40 now, 40, would you bid it on now, 40 now, 40. Okay, you want to describe what you're selling here, for instance, like, say I'm going to start this off, I got a Droid phone by Google here. I started off at an even $400, and it's $400 on now, 400, would you bid it on now, 400 on now, would you bid it on? Would you bid it on now? 425. Anybody 425 now? 50 bid it on 425. 50 bid it on 425. 50 now. 50 bid it on 425. Yo, 50 now. 50 bid it on now 475. 475. 555. Anybody 5? Anybody 555? Anybody 5? Alright, okay, you gotta know what you're selling. If you see someone that really doesn't know what they're doing in an auction, you don't want to beat them up about it. You know, like, would you bid 30 now? 30, would you give me 30? Give me 30, make it 30, give me 30, make it 30. Don't beat them up if they don't know what they're doing. And because, you know, auctioneers are more of entertainers than anything else. You know, you got to keep clear. Like, I bid it on 10, 20 now. I bid it on. Would you bid it on 25 on now? 50. Bid it on 25. 50 bid it on now 25. 50. I bid it on 25. Would you bid it on now? 50 now. 50 now. 50. Would you bid it on 25? 50 now 75. Would you bid it on now 25? 50 now 75. 75 now 1. Clarity is everything in your auction. All right. Thanks for your time.
Okay, so looking at the auctioneer, he can speak very quickly. Is he thinking faster? I don't think so. Because a lot of his words he said are filler words. He's using the word bid a lot. I bid on this, I bid on this, you bid on this, you bid on this. He's not thinking those things. I think those are more cerebellum-like behaviors. You don't think to walk, you don't think to speak. It just happens because they're very well practiced. So I don't think the auctioneer, even though he's saying things fast, and even though words and language are correlated, I don't think he's thinking faster. Okay, now, I think this is different than freestyling. You don't know that when I grew up, the way I earned my way through college, I was a street performer. I stood out there and I'd say, look, give me a topic. Someone give me a topic, and I just lay down a rap. I said, give me a topic, give me a beat, and I just rolled. Now, believe it or not, freestyle, why are you laughing? When you look at me, you don't think just straight thug? No. That hurts. That hurts. So check it out. The idea here, you're still laughing. The idea here is if you know anyone who can very quickly come up extemporaneously, means pretty much independently or instantly, off their head, off top of their head, they can put together a rhyming, meaningful rap. That's impressive. They can think quickly. I don't think auctioneers think quicker. People with some ability to freestyle can think quickly. Let's look at this young lady. The next person we're going to look at, she has an interesting cognitive. So, how does she do that? You know, race car, yeah. How does she do that? Now, I have no idea. I don't know that cognitive scientists will know this idea. If we imagine a bell curve, a normal distribution, also known as a Gaussian curve, all right, most of us are near the middle. If I were to say, all right, everyone quickly, say the word desk backwards. Yes. Not bad. All right. Say the word glasses backwards. You guys are pretty good. You're like thinking it. What's your name backwards? Go. All right. If you want to freak your parents out, you want to talk backwards, all right, and mess your. How do you say mom backwards? Go. Mom. All right. Well done. So the reality is, she didn't have to practice. She didn't have to think. She had virtually no delay between stimulus and response. She thinks faster. Is she practiced at it? Is it a natural talent? Does she have different neurocircuitry? We've got a lot of questions to ask. One of the ones I'd like to think, is she spelling them, or is she reacting to only the sound? Could she do this with words she's never heard in a foreign language? Does she repeat the sound or spelling? For instance, if we gave her the word neuroscience, if the neuroscience, the last two words of science, the last two letters are going to be CE, would she then say it backwards as ek and have the hard C? Or would she have the soft C, S, to say the word neuroscience backwards? I don't know. But I think when we study those who are abnormal, it gives us an insight into what our mind and or our brain does. Anyone that makes someone else look like an idiot, I am for. However, the rules for making fun of someone are simply this. You can only make fun of someone for something they can change. There's your rule. You can only make fun of someone for something they can change. Questions on that? Somebody, oh, I can't be racist. Damn. That's what you're thinking. Right then. Did that cross the line? Just saying. All right then. So here's the way we're looking at it. Let's look at what is in our mind. All right. We got the concept of, here's the word, concept. Concepts are what's in the mind. Maybe it's the content. Thinking, we got thinking is how we do. Concept is what we think about. And a concept's a broadly defined thing. It's basically anything in your mind. A category of objects, events, processes, ideas, relationships. So category is what you think about. Thinking is how you think about the concept. Now there's different, there's going to be different subcategories of a concept. I think for our purposes, it's a good intellectual idea to look at what's called an artificial concept. An artificial concept is going to be something that cannot not be itself. A square, a circle. A circle cannot be anything other than a circle, because if it's not a circle, it's not a circle. The concept of 2, the number 2, the numeral 2, the idea of 2 cannot be 3, because if it's 3, it's not 2. These are hard to find in our world, which is why it makes thinking difficult, because one thing can be another. Every now and then I say what I think is a clever euphemism. Students come up to me and they say, I did my work and I submitted it, but the internet broke last night. And yeah. And I say, I think you're lying like a rug. And the slower student's like, wait, I get it. See, the word lie can be other things. A concept in our world. Give me an example of something that can only be itself. Very tough to find that, which is maybe why our mental world is so confusing, maybe why we get confused in our own thoughts and communication so hard. Prototype concept, that which everyone understands but might not be accurate, like an operational definition. Or here's an example of a prototype concept, art. I don't know what it is, I can't define it, but I know what it is when I see it. Okay, art makes me feel good. I like art. But so do Cocoa Krispies. All right, Cocoa Krispies are pretty tasty, but I don't know if they're art. Somebody's like, yeah, they are. Best cereal, who we got? Best cereal, what do you guys think?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
In my trash can outside my house, I have nothing but 3/4 full boxes of Lucky Charms. You know why? Because I eat only the marshmallows. I just throw away the rest. All right, you don't need the rest of that stuff. That's just healthy crap. All right, so we're looking at the concept of a prototype. Let me ask you this. I want you to get the concept of a bird in your mind. All right, you got a bird? No one thinks penguin. That's like, technically it's a bird. No one thinks of ostrich. And don't tell me God's perfect, because look at an ostrich. That's not right. Lightning bolts are going to hit me. All right. Oh, if God's mad at me for that, then I think I'm fine, because, man, you should see the other things I've done. All right. So what I'm looking at is if we have a concept of a bird, it's going to be the noble, majestic eagle. It's not going to be an ostrich or a penguin. When I tell you to think of a dog, you're going to think of like a Labrador retriever. All right? You're not going to think of little white Bichon. I call them kick-em dogs. All right. If the dog can be taken away by an owl, it's not a real dog. Can I get an amen on that? Some of you are like, oh, you got a little dog. All right. So what we're looking at, concepts. We put things in categories. We need to. We put people in categories. Have you ever said to someone, oh my God, you remind me of... That's really an insulting thing. Has anyone ever been on the receiving end of when someone says, oh, you're just like... No. Because we want to be individuals. It is normal and natural for human beings to put thoughts in categories. It's normal and natural to put people in categories. I don't think you cannot not. How many people do you think you know in your world? 10,000? Do you have 10,000 different categories, 10,000 different concepts, one for each person? No, you lump people together. When you're talking about a group of people in the school, you're like, oh, that's Johnny and them. As if all of them are together. I'm not saying that's bad, I'm not saying it's good, I'm saying it's how we thought. Be careful of cognitive professors that are going to tell you to not think illogically. I suggest we must think illogically most of the time. But hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Vocabulary word here, it's called a proposition. A smallest unit of knowledge that can stand by itself. Smallest unit of knowledge that can stand by itself. In the language world, we're going to call that a morpheme. You might want to overlap those two. They're not exactly the same thing, but the concepts are related. So maybe that's how you should study. You should relate concepts instead of memorizing words and definitions. Moving on like my mama, one step ahead of the law, boys and girls, let's go. All right, we got two categories of thinking. One is going to be informal reasoning. Informal reasoning is how we think most of the time. How we think most of the time. Now, I can't tell you how many cognitive psychologists will stand up, teach a class, and tell their students, don't do this. This is wrong. This is filled with mistakes. Don't think informally. Be logical. I know we can be logical, but it's extremely difficult and time consuming. I wouldn't write down these bullet points, but I think they're good guideposts for us. This is how humans usually think. 99.9% of the time we think informally. Now that is, of course, a made-up statistic. But that's an example of informal reasoning. I don't know the fact. I haven't done the data. I haven't done the analysis how often every human being, if they think, make a decision throughout their day, how often it's informal. So I'm going to throw it out there. It's not logical. It's an assumption. It's faster and efficient than true logical thinking. Check this out. After this class, walking on campus, walking in the hallway of some building, and your friend comes up. You're like, wait! I don't know you. I've seen that movie where the CIA impersonates people. I've seen that movie where aliens inhabit someone's skin suit. You could be one of them. You don't gather all the details about your friend. How do you know it's not Halloween? How do you know your friend had a long-lost twin that was kept in a home? And that friend, the evil twin, escaped, killed your nice friend, and then now you are friends with a person who's not really a friend. How do you know? You have not done the data analysis. You are assuming. If you make an assumption on every single, if you gather all the data on every decision, you'll never get anything done. All right, so when you get out of bed in the morning, you're like, oh, I got to go to school. How do you know the world didn't end and only your house is the one left? You take a shower without looking outside. How do you know? You can see where gathering all the data for every decision you make is pretty much impossible. We are slow, so we use shortcuts, and I'm saying that informal reasoning is full of shortcuts. One example is top-down processing. Top-down processing. All right, everyone here, if you can look at this chair. All right. Have you ever sat in this chair? No. Have you ever seen this chair? Heard it? Smelt it? Ever tasted it? I don't think it's, ew. All right. So the reality is, you're assuming that's a chair. You don't know that all night last night I was up in my laboratory, all right, creating an amazing detailed replica of a papier-mâché chair. That's not a chair. That's art. That's how I was feeling last night. Feeling like the whole world was sitting on me. So what did I sculpt? A chair. Now you're like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. Possibly. Possibly it is. But notice, of all the times you've ever sat in a foreign chair, when you came in this room today, you're assuming that's the same seat you sat in yesterday. You're assuming it will support your weight. What if, just what if, there was someone in a chair factory somewhere, and that person was mad at the world? So what they do on every 500th chair, they did not tighten the bolts. So there's a bunch of chairs out there you better test. You better gather the data before you assume it's a real chair. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. But so we make assumptions. Top-down processing, here's the way to write it. We have conclusion, then we gather the data. Top-down processing. We get conclusion, then we gather the data. This is related to inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning, check it out. Finding specifics after you find the general idea. Heuristics. Hard word to say. Heuristics. Heuristics is a category of strategies. They're simple, they're shortcuts, but guess what? They're error prone. Into there you could put, related to this is the word of stereotype, prejudice, assumptions. But you know what? Those actually work a lot. You're sitting there on the street corner and a car is flying at you, looks like it's out of control. You jump out of the way. You made a decision without doing the calculation of the car's velocity and friction coefficient of the tires on the asphalt. A bear is running at you in the woods. You assume you should run or hide. How do you know it's not an escaped circus bear just looking for a hug? Didn't gather all the data. What would be a better pet than a bear? None. What'd you say? thought someone said a snail. Worst pet ever, SpongeBob. All right, so what are we looking at here? If you had a grizzly bear, a 2,000-pound grizzly bear, would you spend the money and get a custom-designed saddle so you could ride it? That's a fact. That's a fact. All right, you walk into a store, they're like, sir, no pets. You're like, you know what I'm saying? And I would teach my bear the word kill. All right, just like that. All right, so on your mark and set. Let's talk about this thing called a schema. Schema is a set of ideas or a point of view. A schema is a set of ideas or a point of view. Again, you can write down probably, you can write down I assume. And I guarantee you there's some teachers out there that are saying, don't assume. Informal reasoning's wrong. And they use, assume, you know what? Assume makes ha ha ha. And everyone's like, what? Get it? Ass out of you and me. Yeah, some people are like, oh, wow, you're writing that down. You're going to use that one. All right, so schema is a way that we think. It's a set of ideas. We don't think ideas by themselves. We think in clusters. We think of sets of ideas. Related to that is a script. What should occur in a situation? What should occur in a situation? We learned this in social psychology. We have an idea of how human beings should interact, what roles we should play. It is not right for a teacher to sit here and be like, how you doing? Frustrating? Do you kind of wish I'd go away? Yeah. I know. It's kind of awkward, isn't it? Hi. That's just so awkward. She's like, and kind of, frankly, so am I. So here's what we're looking at. What should occur in a situation, we assume. We don't like it when the unexpected happens and we don't know what to do because we don't have the cognitive schema to fill in. All right. Mental models. How things work. All right, has anyone here ever broken a window? On purpose? Okay, all right. How'd you do it? You punched it! Now do you see why people won't sit near you? Kind of true, though. All right, so let's do this. I got a couple models, okay? A couple ideas. I got my clay brain, and I have a brick. If I were to drop this clay brain, do you think it would shatter? Yeah. If I threw this clay brain at that window, would it break? Which one? How do you know? Have you ever seen it? No. Have any of you all ever seen a brick through a window? On TV. Well, that's clearly real. This is an interesting concept because we assume we know the way the world works. If I drop it, will it break? No. How do you know? What's that? Give me your hand. All right. It's. You with me on that? Okay. Because it's actually part of my lesson. All right. We have a mental model of how, and this is wild because how many of you all have ever laid brick? Has anyone here ever spent time as a mason or a mason's assistant on a summer job? You're lucky because it's a pretty tough job. You don't want to be out there in the summer hauling bricks back and forth, mixing cement. It's like the second worst job in the world. All right. First worst job, you're looking at it. All right. No one wants to be a psychology teacher. So mental model is simply this. It's how we think the world works. How we think the world, and no one here has ever done any research on a brick. Now it's time for you guys to copy. I did not have enough time to make a worksheet, or I just didn't feel like going and making all these copies because I'm all about the environment and trees. All right. So I need you to copy number 1, blank space. Katie, quiet. I mean, it's just the whispering just bothers me. When everyone's silent. Are you arguing? Now she's arguing. All right. Seriously quiet. I'll throw a brick at you. All right. So check it out. Should we go one at a time? What's that? Oh,
hey, what's wrong with you?
Notice that many of you all ducked.
You're not funny.
I disagree. I think that is pretty funny. I'm willing to take one student's cardiac arrest for the sake of the rest of us learning purpose. Many of you all flinched. You did not do the data analysis with a brick flying through the air like, I don't know if I should duck. It could be a fake brick. What I'm suggesting is informal reasoning is actually a good thing, used in the right way. All right, so next time someone's going to swing a hammer at your head, you can be like, wait a minute. How do I know? You're still giggling. How many of y'all still, Michael, do you still have a little adrenaline issue going on?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. How many of y'all feel unsafe in this class? Well done. Well done, because that's really what I'm going for.